Hello and welcome back to Maff UK. I'm hot and I'm sweaty. That's because I'm back at Kellet Lake. I've got 3 days on Kellet Lake at Clearwater Fisheries and I've got the lake to myself. I've had a massive walk around this morning, spent a lot of time having a look, and I found the fish. The fish are at the end, peg 5, and you can maybe just see one just starting there on the surface in front of peg 5 on the far bank. That's where the fish are, that's where I am. I've just raced to get my gear on top of that water, get my zigs out on top of that as quickly as I can. It is slightly raining, so I've had to put my bivvy up first to protect all my gear. So that's what I didn't really want to do. I wanted to get my rods in the water before my bivvy, but that's the way it goes. So let's see how we get on. Welcome to Maff UK. I haven't had time to mess about. What I've done, the carp are cruising between halfway and 3/4 to the other side. They're up and down, so I haven't had time to mess around. I didn't want to disturb the water too much, so what I did is I put 3 zigs, 2 4-foots, 1 6-foot in that area. I haven't marked it, I don't know what distance they are, they're just where I seen the fish is where I lobbed them. So I haven't done any marking, I haven't done anything, but I'm sort of aware of the depth of that area anyhow. But later this evening what I'll have to do is do all my marking and get closer up tight to the bank where I'm going to go on the bottom and feed on the bottom, because also this morning I seen fizzing right up tight to the bank as well. So I'm going to get my all 3 rods right up tight in a line on that far bank and then zig it in the middle of the lake throughout the day. That's my tactics, that's what I plan on doing at the moment. Before I go any further, I have to correct something that I said on a previous comment made by someone else. It was about the cormorant, Carl the cormorant, which is here again today, and it goes like this. The comment I made was, as the cormorant brought up an eel, I said, "Good lad," and Sam Kiddle said, "Not really a good lad. Eels are on the decline in this country." And I went, no, they're perfectly fine, there's no issues with the decline of eels. Since I made that statement, I wasn't 100% sure now, and I thought, well, he's put the air of doubt in my mind, but for the benefit really, because he's absolutely right. Eels are on the decline in this country, and the last thing we really do need to do is have the eels wiped out. So Sam, you're absolutely right, so I take that comment back. He wasn't a good lad, he was a bad lad. Okay, mate? I've had a couple hours in the water now. I've had a chance to change my zigs to adjustable zigs. Works on the same principle as your marker system. It does actually show on the system that you can PVA your hook to the actual float itself. So I've gone over to adjustable zigs. I'm just going to bring that up just so it's a foot under the surface. And it's easier to do with an adjustable than it is trying to guess or trying to cast out a 9-foot zig. So that's how I'm going to play it. So I've got 1 adjustable zig out already, just below the surface, foot below the surface, left hand rod. Middle rod's going to be again in the middle of the lake, just below the surface, and my right hand rod is, I'm leaving it as it is at 6 foot, and that's just going to stay where it is, probably 2 foot under the surface, I think, looking at the map. Like I said, I didn't have time to mark my spots because the fish were there and I didn't want to disturb them. Once we've done that, once I've got this last rod out, what I'm going to do, show you around. Got a different bivvy this week, different kit setup, and then I'm going to make a coffee. I'm going to make a coffee with a difference. Now, you probably might not have seen anybody do this before, but it's called Cowboy Coffee. It is probably the best coffee you can make yourself, despite having a £2,000 coffee machine at home. If you've got one, this is probably the best coffee that you can make on the bank or anywhere, and it's very simple to do. You just got to follow a few rules, and I challenge anybody to tell me that this is not a very nice way to make coffee, and it's not nice coffee at all. So that's a challenge.
So there's my lovely maize I prepared last night. Prepared all this last night.
Perfect. And my boilies have been soaking overnight, so they're Copic squid. I've also got some ground bait mixed in with it to give them a bit of a dusting, and they've had an overnight soak in some Copic squid boilie attractant as well. So I've gone natural. Well, when I say natural, I've gone simple baits like maize, but I've also gone high-tech, very expensive, cost a fortune baits like that. And that's where I am, and that's where I'm going to be fishing. So 2 rods using boilies, 1 rod maize only. So I've just walked around, I've just baited up 3 spots with a mixture between left-hand one, which is maize, and the boilies on the right. I've kept within my boundaries, my limits, because although I'm the only one on the lake and I can go stalking if I want to, I've been told by the bailiff I can go stalking, so I may do that tomorrow morning, depending on the weather. It's all about weather. I've kept within my boundaries so as I don't give anyone else who turns up the benefit of my bait. So it costs enough as it is, so I don't really want to be throwing loads of it over there and loads of it over there, and only to find out that someone turns up next to me and I have to close ranks and I can't fish it anymore. So I've only fished zigs left and right of my swim, so I've not put any bait in at all. And I'll show you my spots that I've done now. 2 are pretty close together and 1's away from the others, so I'll just show you. Okay, my right hand marker's over here, my left hand marker's over here. My positions are left hand marker, left of tree, willow tree, and in between the willow tree and the marker in the middle there. That are my 3 spots, and they're right up tight to the bank. Right, I did promise you we're going to make a cowboy coffee, and I will say again, this is probably the best coffee you can make on the bank or out in the bush or anywhere you go. It's made traditionally like the American cowboys used to make it, and this is how they used to do it. The only difference being that our beans are already ground. If you wanted to bring a coffee grinder in, you could grind your own beans. That's absolutely fine by me if you want to do that as well, because I've got one. So this is all you do. The most important thing about making cowboy coffee is make sure you know exactly how much water you're going to end up with, because if you're doing 4 cups you need to measure out 4 cups. Alright, I know that sounds crazy, but you measure out 4 cups and then some, and then another half a cup. So if you're having 1 cup like I am, so you have 1 cup of coffee, but add a little bit extra, and all will be revealed later on. Okay, so the coffee that you want to drink and some. Then you find yourself your pot that you're going to cook it in. You can't cook this in a kettle. You'll see why in a minute. So you've measured out how much water you want, put it in your pot that you're going to boil your water in. Do not use a kettle. Place it on your stove and light the stove. And what I'm going to do, as always, zoom you in and show you the next phase of making cowboy coffee. So it is important that you actually have an open pot. You will notice we put our pot on first, and the water now inside the pot is nice and steady. And that's what you want. You don't want to do it the other way around. You don't want to add your coffee and then move it to the pot, because what happens is your coffee will stick to the inside rim up higher as opposed to being in the water where it's needed. You then take whatever coffee you choose, whatever is your favourite coffee, and you add, if it was a normal teaspoon, if you was making an instant coffee, 3 times the amount, so 3 teaspoonfuls, so that would be 1.5 of these for that amount of water. So 1, and perhaps just over half. Now, what you will notice, the coffee is in the water and not stuck to the sides. Now, you bring that to the boil. Never mind what any barista says about boiling coffee ruins it. No, boiling coffee will get rid of the bitter taste. Alright, so just let that boil now. Bring it up to a boil, and when it starts boiling, leave it for 1 minute exactly. We'll get back to you when it starts to boil. I can tell you the smell in this bivvy is gorgeous. Another point to note is you should never fill your pot any more than half full, because when it flares, when this coffee comes to the boil, it will flare, and it's nearly going to do it, and you'll see what I mean. It'll flare up. Here we go. Yeah, see, watch it rise in the pot now. Now if your pot was too full, that would just boil over and you'd lose most of your coffee. So that will settle down. And what's happening now is all the impurities and things, the nastiness, is all being boiled off. All the, I don't know what, all the things that makes it bitter is being removed. So we'll get back to you when the minute is done. Okay, we're coming up to our minute now. Doesn't have to be exactly. Better go over a little bit than you are under, just to make sure the bitterness is boiled off. And I think I can quite happily say that that's done. So we're going to turn the gas off. Now what I'm left with is a coffee full of grits, and what I mean by grits is the actual coffee residue itself, all the bits and flakes and all the little pieces of coffee is all floating around in there. Now there are several ways that you can separate the grits from the coffee. One way, which is my preferred way, is to add a splash of cold water. This also enables you to drink it. Now, so I get my water and yeah, a little splash of cold water. What that does, chemically attracts all the grits and then sinks them to the bottom of the pot so they're not floating around at the top. All we've got to do now is make sure we don't burn our hands. Just pour our coffee into our cup. And this is why we need a little bit extra, so as that we don't. Is that going to be alright, that? Yeah, that's going to be alright actually. So I'll try and zoom out a bit before I do that so I actually get it on shot. There we are. Pour it nice and steady away, and hold it there. So we've got a bit left over which contains all the grits, and there's our coffee. Now I understand you're going to be cynical about this and you're going to say to me, but Matt, how can it possibly taste good? All you did was boil it. Well, I challenge you to give it a go. The only things that can go wrong is you put too much coffee in or not enough coffee. And that's a bit of trial and error from yourself. So if you balls it up the first time, don't poo-poo it. Try it again with a different measurement of coffee. It only takes a bit of coffee and a bit of water for you to get it right to your taste. So mine was a guide for my taste. So you copied out to start with. If it's too much, then fine, put a little bit less in. If it's too, or it's not enough, put more in. It's entirely up to you, but that's how to do it. And I'm telling you now, and I've not added anything super duper into this. This isn't a special coffee yet. We'll be in a minute, but I'm not saying it for the camera. I'm telling you now, you'd pay good money for that. And it's called Cowboy Coffee. And if you've never seen it before, give it a go. It's very easy. And if you do try it and you do like it, come back to this video and let me know, will you? Cowboy Coffee. Cheers, everyone. Just lacking a bit of Jim Beam, I think. Bit of bourbon. Cheers all. Lovely. So let's have a quick recap of today's fishing. I turned up only one on the lake. I could see fish directly in front of me in the centre of the lake and out to the edges of peg 5. I quickly threw some zigs in on top of that to cause minimum disturbance, so wherever I've seen the fish show, I was putting a zig on top of it. Whilst the zigs were sat there, I was making up some secondary zigs, which were the adjustable kind, so that I had some bit of play, because I've got like 9-10 foot to my left and I've got sort of like 7 foot to my right, so I needed a little bit of adjustment. And so I put my adjustable zigs on and I put them in the water, and the fish were still moving in and around those zigs, but they weren't taking. And I did adjust the left hand zig up a foot at one point to see if that would make a difference. It didn't. Whilst all that was going on, I then sat back and made myself some PVA bags to go out, and also went round and baited up the other side of the bank. So I reeled everything in, walked around, baited up, came back, placed my baits onto those spots, and that's where I am. That's where I am at the moment. Nothing has happened. I've not seen any fish since, so whether I've scared them off, spooked them off, I couldn't possibly tell you. Probably because I'm the only one fishing today. There is someone coming tomorrow on this lake, and then come weekend, when it comes to Saturday, it's completely booked. Every peg's gone, so there's no spare pegs in here at all. So yeah, there are definitely fish moving. Definitely I was on the money this morning, but unfortunately they weren't taking it. The blue stuff is still in the water, but again, I'm not saying they're put off by it. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is it's still in the water. But they are, fish have got to feed whether it's blue stuff in the water or not. So unless they come floating up to the top because it's killed them all, which are highly unlikely, then yeah, it's just something that has to take place. They'd have gotten used to it now. It was a week ago since I've been here last, since it was put in. So I don't think that has an effect on the fish at this moment in time. Ask me that in 3 days' time when I haven't caught anything, and I would 100% blame it on the blue stuff. And not my abilities. Got a bleeding swan there. I'm just hoping that my bait is just that little bit too far for it to reach. I'm hoping it just can't make it, because there's quite a bit of bait, well, not a huge amount, but there's a bit of bait down there, and I don't want that bugger to get it, because it'll just wipe everything out. And I think it's struggling. I don't think it can get down, which is really good news. Looking by it, doesn't look like it's eating it. So it's 11 o'clock gone and still no fish. Bleeding typical. I've dangled the zigs right in front of their noses. I've used my adjustable zigs to adjust my depth to see if that makes a difference. And I've even gone down to the bottom and feeding off the bottom with bottom baits and pop-ups. Right up close to the bank, as per all the bailiff's instructions say, keep it nice and tight up to the bank. I know the fish are there, I've seen them, but they're just not having it. So it's just I don't know what I'm doing wrong. I feel like I'm doing everything right, but it's not working for me. I have a decision to make in the morning, because it's going to start getting busy as of tomorrow. Shall I move to peg 10, which is where I wanted to go in the first place? If I wake up in the morning and don't see any fish in front of me, I may move. This evening at last light, peg 10 had plenty of fish in front of it. The little carp were boshing. They weren't big carp, but they were boshing nonetheless, so it was good to see. And I'd rather have a little carp than no carp. If it lends itself to moving, then I will get up, grab a bucket, take it onto peg 10, and then start fagging my gear around bit by bit. And that's all I can do. But I will do that if I need to. I like peg 10. So until then, until tomorrow, or unless I get a fisher in the evening, I'll see you in the daylight. Good night. I'll see you in the daylight all night. Oops, I dropped a bit of bread in the water and 5,000 seagulls came. Jesus, you're not surface fishing around here, are you? Well, I'm playing one. But I think it's got me snagged up. Yeah, I'm snagged up, so what I'm gonna have to do, let it go. I'm in, but I'm snagged. I didn't know there was any snags in here. I didn't know there was any snags in here. All I can do is just let the line loose and see if it desnags itself, or it's off. It's took me right over to peg 2, so it's had me over, but it's not pulling any line right now. So I think I've lost it, and it's got me snagged up somewhere, and it's got itself off. That's what I think. Because it's not pulling any line, the line's not moving. I've got it back in the rod rest and it started pissing down. So I'm soaked, and not only am I soaked, all 3 rods were wiped out, so I've got to start all over again. I got 2 pickups, and because I was snagged, one went into the other. It was chaos. It was absolute chaos. So I don't know. I was contemplating moving, but I've had 2 pickups this morning, and no, I'll stay here. I'll get back on those spots again. Well, I'm certainly not complaining about the breakfast, gents. That's a very nice looking breakfast, and I'm very much looking forward to it. So let's get stuck in. It's now just gone 12 o'clock on my second day. This morning was very much a disaster in every concept. The moment I got snagged up, it started raining, everything got wet, I got wet, my gear got wet, and I lost my fish. So there was an awful lot of effort went in for nothing. But that's fishing for you. Where am I at this moment in time? I've got 3 bottom baits on. 12 o'clock coming. I think I'm going to pull one of those in. I'm going to pull my Ronnie rig in, and I'm going to change that for a 3-foot zig right up tight to the bank, that one over there. And that's all I can do, really. I don't know what else to do. I've tried everything else in my arsenal yesterday. That didn't work, so I had all zigs. No, 2 zigs, 1 bait. I'm going to do the opposite. 1 zig and 2 bottom baits. I've had more success on bottom baits, I must admit. I've had a lot more life from them than I have the zigs, but there you go. So I'm going to stop what I'm doing now, change everything over, and go for it. Keep trying. I'm not the only one on the lake anymore. I was contemplating moving into 10 this morning, but now that somebody's moved into 10, that's not going to happen, so I am stuck here. But to be fair, I've been out and baited the area twice now. Again, I baited it again this morning when all my rods were in and I was trying to dry myself off. So yeah, it makes sense to stay here on my baits and keep pushing that zone and I am within my own boundaries. So like I said earlier, if it does get busy, I don't have to reel in anywhere. I'm fishing in my swim. There we go. Catch you in a bit. George behind us has just caught himself a 31 pound and something fish. That's from the Syndicate Lake. Plenty of fish come out of that lake. I must admit, every time I've come here, somebody's always had one out of that water. Not here though. Well, you can't deny the entourage behind me goes to show how much of an interest they take in their fish in this lake. So pretty much every time anybody catches it, they're pretty keen on getting involved and getting stuck in and getting pictures of it, which promotes the fishery but also gives them a good idea of what's going on. The fish that was pulled out there was called football, I think it's called it. But anyway, there you go. How you doing, mate? You okay?
Yeah. Have you done?
No, I've lost two. There's a trailing fish in here.
Yeah.
Keeps cutting me off. I've just lost another rig now, just a few minutes ago. I was only just casting out, and I straight away I got into a fish and thought that was a trailing wire, and it was a trailer. So, well, rain's here. Now, young lad's been walking around, one at bailiffs. He checked out my spots where I was, looking over into the water where I am, nothing there. And then he walked over to a corner which is belonging to peg 6, and there's lots and lots of carp held up in there. So I'm going to use my running rig and I'm going to get over in that corner. You can get pretty close. You can literally walk most of the way to it and then just flip one over and then walk your line back, a bit like what they do on the pontoon here. So same sort of tactics really. You won't be able to do it in a couple of years when the trees grow, and you certainly wouldn't be able to do it if there's anybody else here, but because there's not, I can. Okay, here we go. Can you see me? Here we go. Okay. Cast. That's where I want it, exactly where I want it, and that's where it's staying until somebody moves into 6. I'm not touching that rod now. Now I'm out of shot at the moment, but the last time I tried this I got caught on the weed under the water, so I'm trying to keep my rod up as high as possible so I don't have that same problem again. At the same time, I don't want to drag my bait. Now I'm absolutely bang on for the location of where the fish were seen. I'm right in the corner now, so all that remains now is to make sure that my reels and my alarms are set. People can get very, very particular how this is done, making sure all the spools are back or all the spools forwards, but I'll just quickly show you how I do it. I'll bring you in and show you how I set my spool and my bait alarms good to go for trying to catch a fish. If you look here at the bobbin, this bobbin here, you can see that it's much lower than the others because I haven't set my rod properly yet. So what I intend to do is make sure my bait arms are uppermost, make sure I increase the tension on the drag, and then I'm going to simply wind that in, taking up all the slack. And I'm happy I've got the right amount of slack. Just check, that's quite stiff, loosen it one, there we go. I'm happy now that that is set right. Some people get a little bit overzealous and make sure all the spools are back or the full spools are forward. I'm really not that particular when it comes to it. At the end of the day, it needs to be set right and indicate a bite, and that will indicate a bite. So there we are. So all ready and set now. And this one is the Ronnie rig that I've just put out in that corner. Just been informed that there are actual cats in this water, which would strike right with what I was thinking this morning, that the bite I got behaved exactly like a catfish. I could have swore blind it was a cat, and what it did, it took me down into the deepest part of this lake and snuggled itself into the silt and weed and got me hung up. And that's what it did. I knew there was something not right. I knew it wasn't a carp that did that. I couldn't get my head around it at first because I didn't know there was cats in there, but there are cats in there, and that's the reason why. It might only be a 20-pound cat, but if that 20-pound cat gets you from one side of your swim to the other, heads for the deeper water, wraps you up in the weeds and ties you up, that is a cat. That's what they do. They're very good at that. Got enough experience in getting snagged up by them by now. So it was a cat. Don't like cats. Right, well, as you can hear, the rain's pouring down again, so bivvy bound once more. Still no fish. I am coming into the early part of my second evening. I'm very disappointed, however, not much I can do about that. So, what I'm going to do when this rain stops, because it will stop it shortly, I'm going to change my rigs over and put some fresh baits on. But this time, instead of using PVA bags, I'm going for it's like a semi-stiff rig. So it's made from ordinary line. You know, it's just ordinary line. So it's like a semi-stiff rig, anti-tangle. Put a bit of a bag on that and then lob it out after. And that's all I'm going to do. There we go. It really is nothing hard and fast. It is something that I have used in the past actually. I made some rigs a few years ago when I first started doing it out with this stuff, thinking I was doing the right thing. And my mate went, "What are you doing? You're supposed to use braid." But with the onslaught of the running rig and the stiff rig, it's sort of come back in again. So there you go. That's what I've done. I've actually put it in the water and tried it, and it sits very well, to be honest. Very well indeed. So I'm looking forward to putting them out. Again, the little bags They're only for preventing the hook from clogging up really, and a little bit of attracting in the water whilst I lob it out. The bait's already out there. I've added second baiting up. Tomorrow will be the third and final bait up for that area tomorrow morning. Yeah, I'm just waiting for this to stop. And it sounds like it could be stopping right now. Because we don't live too far away, my darling wife thought it would be nice to bring dinner to me. So they brought me chicken pie and some chips from the chippy. It wasn't just an ordinary chicken pie, it was this chicken pie. And this made me laugh. And that is my missus all over. I'll get by. Waitress service, thank you very much, madam. Today started off really exciting with action straight away in the morning, runs. I knew I was on the money, good place to be, happy about that. It died off a death. I've not had a knock or anything all day since. My options for moving are now over. People are moving in left and right of me, so the lake is filling up. So just at that moment in time where I think I've nailed it, it's gone. All I can do tomorrow is go rebait at the spots again, get back onto the spots, keep my fingers crossed. That's all I can do. One more day, one more night to go, and then it's packy up in the morning. So let's just see what happens in the evening. You'll know, because you'll see this next, or you won't. 5:30. Lying in your pit, listen to the rain. That's probably the longest sleep I've had in quite some time. That candle, both those candles, that one's just gone out on the left. They've been burning since 9 o'clock last night. Brilliant candles for the money. 8-hour tea lights. Brilliant stuff. Well, nothing else to do really except have a brew while I wait for breakfast. So, how am I going to play this last 24 hours, which is what I've got right now? I've got 24 hours left. By this time tomorrow, there's going to be somebody stood behind me on my peg saying, "Let me in, you bastard." I've got my bread, I've got the remainder of my baits. I'm going to make it all into one big mulch, and when it's time I'm going to reel in. I'm going to throw this out and I'm going to put every single rod on bottom baits. No pop-ups, bottom baits, using the exact same things as what I'm using right here now. So it's going to be a boilie topped with a piece of maize, and that is how I'm going to finish the session. I'm not, unless I see a lot of surface action, I'm not going to go on to zigs. You never know. I won't never say never. So yeah, that's all I can do. I can just keep trying at it. 24 hours to go. It's still a long time in the fishing world. The last 10 minutes is a long time in the fishing world, isn't it? So the rain's keeping it interesting. Never say never. The fish are on the surface, right in front of me, 3 wraps out, jumping all over the place. So I'm going to put a zig bug on. I've seen lots of these little bugs crawling out of the water recently, so I'm having that on. I'm putting that on, I don't care. 2 foot, I've got a 6 foot zig up, no, it's a 5 foot zig. Just going to put that on straight on a flat pair. I'm just going to show you the state of the line when I picked up that liner yesterday. You know that there's definitely a fish trailing out there, and I've just had a show right over where my zig is. Come on, please go for it. Just go for that zig. Have it. Go on, have it. It's yours free. You can have it for free. I won't even charge you for it. Go on, have that bug. Look at the state of the line there. You know that has been in contact with another line. That's what happens. It curls and does that when it hits another line, and that is what I ended up with. And eventually cut me off there. So you know there's a trailing line out there when you see that. That's definitely, if you ever cross someone's lines and you reel in together, that's what happens to your line. So you know what it is. That's classic symptoms of cross line. So there you go. Unfortunately, there is a trailer out there, and that carp is right over my zig. Come on, black zig. Come on. For that, for £6.50, I'm telling you. Somebody brings you to your doorstep a fully cooked English breakfast for £6.50, you cannot go wrong. That's a really good quality breakfast, and I'm really looking forward to having that. And as always, I'll see you when I've eaten it. Bugger off, I'm having my breakfast. That will be my next baits to go out. I moved. I've got to keep the camera in here because it's just starting to rain a bit. But yes, I moved. I was just going round to bait up, and Harry stopped me and had a chat. And I've seen all morning fish over here, so I just went, don't break the most common rule, and that's fish where the fish are. So I've moved into this peg, knowing too well that I can see fish surfacing over there. Thing is about this peg is that I've seen the bailiffs baiting up here. The lads put a bit of bait in yesterday who've gone, and I've got a bit of bait left. So I know bait's gone in here. It's a good chance that this is a good feeding area, so I'm going to give it a go. Again, what would you do in this situation before it gets really busy? I've now got a bit of space between my neighbours as opposed to having somebody right on my doorstep. So I think most people would do the same given the choice. But the most important thing is fish where the fish are. Right, so it's been a couple hours since I made my spod mix. Put everything all mixed in together. There you go. There it is. I got just enough there now for about 10-20 spods for this evening, just before last light. Get that out on top of it. Job done. I've just put about 10-20 out now, and there we are. So fingers crossed. That's a good mix. I'm really happy with that spod mix. plenty of bits and bobs in the water floating around. Seagulls can take the bits that still float. I'm not asked about that, but the main of it, particles and everything's going to go down onto the bottom. So real happy with that. And if I don't catch any fish, it's his fault over there. Yeah, him. Well, here I am, all set up again, fishing again, this time now in peg 3. Now, has been signs of fish since I've been setting up in here. So what I did, I initially rocked up. It was raining, so I put my shelter up to keep all my gear dry. Then I just spodded about 10-15 spods out between the 2 sticks. So again, area as opposed to little groups. I then got my baits out that I showed you earlier, put those on the spots. I've actually got 2 bottom baits, not pop-ups, complete bottom baits, and 1 zig, that black bug zig that's gone back out again because they're showing on the surface, so I thought I'd give that a try. Once I've got my position set up, once I was in put my rods out in those positions, what I then did was put another 3 or 4 spods over each one just to bed it in a little bit more. So there's plenty of bait gone out over my position, so along the position, and then more so on the 3 spots that I chose as well. So more concentrated in 3 areas as opposed to in there, but a lot of bait's gone out, and you know, we're talking good 2 or 3 kilos there gone out just in 3 little spots alone. And all I can do now is wait. It's never going to happen. I've come over to peg 7 because there's a fish that keeps boshing out just down here. It's been doing my head and it's been teasing me, and it's still pretty quiet, and I'm actually currently still the only person fishing on this lake. So the lad said if I was the only one I can do a bit of stalking, so I've reeled in. I'm going to have a little bit of a stalk and see if I can get this little devil out of here. So I'm going to put my bait in. I'm just going to be on a bottom bait for now. I'm just going to put a bit of bait on top of that and see if I can tempt it. It's not very deep at all. I can't afford to put bread on the surface or anything like that, because the seagulls will be here in seconds to just wipe me out completely. Let's just see how we go. And this is why this swim's virtually impossible. See, last night I had a bait there all last night in this little alcove here, and they keep boshing there. Nothing. Just gonna give it a little while here. I watched one come right out of the water, literally 4 foot from the bank. So I've dropped my rod straight in that spot. Now he did zoom off over that way, but I'm just guessing that he may just come back this way too. So I've got a slack line with the rod resting on my legs. It's quite a comfortable position. I can keep relatively still here. I just need to shut up. So bloody frustrating. They're all around me, but they won't take any bait. No matter what I put in, they won't take it. Bread, pop-ups, zigs. It's just not feeding. There's absolutely nothing I can do. How do you switch these fish on to feed? Right, I'm going to be running out of stalking time soon. There's bound to be some more anglers turning up in a minute. So I'm just going to try up the very top end there, see if there's anything in there where there's no wind. And then I'm going to knock it on the head and go back to my normal spots. That's all I can do. Give it a go, but they're just not having it. I can't make them have it, no matter what I do. Clumps of bread soaking down, followed by bread on top of that. Nothing. Oh well. Well, here I am into my final evening. Everybody on that side of the lake, which is the syndicate side, is catching. Anybody on this side of the lake isn't catching anything. Especially as if I'm the only one on it. It's Bank Holiday Friday and I'm the only person on this lake. I can't believe that. I genuinely can't believe that. You would have thought people would be doing Friday, Saturday, Sunday, but nope, there's nobody else on here at all. Do they know something I don't? I think that's definitely true there. They definitely know something that I don't. But saying that, tactics, what else can I possibly do? I've tried everything. I've been stalking, I've tried bread, I've tried pop-ups, I've tried bottom baits, I've tried zigs, and nothing has worked. Nothing. I have been on the fish, I'm tapping them on the head with my rod, and they still could not get them out of the water. And that's quite bizarre, but it's not the first time that's happened to me as well. When I went down linear fisheries, exactly the same thing. I could see the fish passing me, and no matter what I did, they would not touch the bait that I was using. So there we are. So we're heading into our evening. My dinner is on its way. So I think definitely having haggis and chips again this evening. Apart from that, all we can do is knuckle in. It's definitely going to pour down later as well, so another evening of rain. But tomorrow's going to be bright and sunny. It's going to be a cold evening too. It's definitely going to be, it's going down to 2 degrees, so the temperature's going to drop somewhat rapidly later. So yeah, it's not going to be a fun night, but I'll be nice and warm in there anyhow. All we can do is see how we can get on. It's been a hell of a fight, this one. I was determined to come here and catch a bloody fish at last, and so far they've eluded me. So let's see how we get on. I'm going to put my last few spods out, finish off the last of my bait, and then I know I've got plenty of bait on the area.
It's Cowboy Coffee time. Oh yeah, yes. We're trying to get ourselves a pretty boil.
Popcorn, favourite movie, Agnes. What a night! I like this fella, he's good. He's stalking right now, apparently. Fish, that is. It's all good stuff. So, time now is 10 o'clock. Just gone 10. Nothing. For me, nothing. Harry had another run earlier. Well, literally just 10 minutes ago. Unfortunately, got tangled with the peg next door. At that sort of distance, when we're talking like 30 wraps, when a carp gets hold of you and disappears over to your left, you know, the chances are it's going to pick another lad who's 30 wraps out, and there's not much you can do about it at that distance. If it kites across, and you're screwed. There's a lot of weed out there as well, so unfortunately they've lost the fish between them. So plenty of action going on behind me, no action whatsoever in front of me. However, the action in the morning is going to be quite comical. I'm gobsmacked that there is nobody on this lake this evening except me. I'm really surprised at that. Bank holiday Friday, nobody here. That is quite amazing. So tomorrow it's full. There's not a free pick. I was actually contemplating staying on another night, but I don't know, for me I'm just flogging a dead horse here. I've tried everything and I can't get one out. It'd be interesting to see what happens tomorrow when the chaos starts, because everyone's going to be fighting for the best pegs, and this is one of the best pegs, so I can imagine about 10 buckets behind me by about 7 o'clock tomorrow morning. But they're going to wait until I've finished. Well, I may batten down that door. This rain's going to come on. Unbelievable. I haven't moved all night. They're just not on it. At the moment, they're just not on it. I don't know why. I can see them now. They're just not taking any bait. No matter where I put it, they're not taking it. Still got a couple hours left, so I'm not giving up yet, but it's not looking good. And then this afternoon, this place is going to have 30 lines in it. Surely to God someone's going to pull something out with 30 lines in this lake. Anyway, the pack-up commences, and I shall see you shortly. Yeah, I genuinely was contemplating whether to actually release this video or not. Nobody likes to show failure, but at the end of the day, it is what it is. I always show a true representation of fishing as it is, and not what people perceive it to be. If I was to cut myself short and not want to show the fact that I've blanked again, then I'm doing myself an injustice, and it's not right. So you should always, if I've blanked, I've blanked. And it's not a reason not to show video, because I did a lot to try and get them out. So I worked hard at it, and it just didn't happen for me. So that's how I'm going to play it. I have released a video purely and simply because it is what it is. It's what I did and what I tried to do, and how I ended up with the results I ended up. So I'm not going to do it any other way. And so that's it. That's how it's going to play out. That's how it's going to be. So I hope you enjoyed the video, regardless of another blank. Right, so there you go then. That's the end of my session. 7 days without a fish on this water, and I'm absolutely gutted. However, it's the end of my session, but the beginning of other people's sessions for the bank holiday. And who's taking over my spot is Sasha from Blackpool. Hi Sasha, how you doing? You okay? Thank you. Listen, I wish you the best of luck. I hope you do better than I did.
So do I.
I can't do any worse anyhow, can you? So there you go. That's the end of it for me. Let's hope Sasha gets the fish out of the water. Thanks very much for joining me. See you next time. Bye bye.